Stop scrolling. Before you sleep tonight, discover the one secret Napoleon Hill says could change your financial life forever. It's no coincidence that you're here right now. If you press play on this video before going to sleep, something inside you is asking for change. Maybe it's the exhaustion of always struggling with the same financial difficulties, or that quiet feeling that your life could and should be different. Most people go to sleep every night carrying worries, bills, fears, and doubts. But very few know that there is an extremely powerful moment, right before sleep, when the mind is open, receptive, and ready to be programmed. It's in this moment that internal decisions are made, often without us realizing it, and where your financial destiny begins to take shape. Napoleon Hill spent over 20 years studying the richest and most successful people in the world and discovered something that almost no one practices. A simple yet profound principle capable of completely changing the way you attract prosperity. And what's even more impressive, this principle is also confirmed by the Word of God. If you listen to this message carefully tonight, you will not only understand why so many attempts failed in the past, but you'll also discover how to activate a new mental, spiritual, and financial pattern. Maybe tonight is the last night you sleep the same way, and tomorrow could be the first day of your new prosperous life. There comes a moment in life when something awakens within you. You begin to realize that life is not just about paying bills or surviving month after month, but about living with purpose, expectation, and direction. This spiritual and financial awakening happens when you understand that you were born for more than scarcity and automatic repetition. When this awareness emerges, your mind starts asking different questions, and your heart opens up to new possibilities. It's not coincidence, it's alignment. It's as if something quietly says, it's time to take control of your financial destiny and your life. This awakening doesn't require perfection, it requires decision. A decision to look inward, take responsibility, and understand that prosperity begins in the mind before it ever appears in your bank account. From here on, everything starts to make more sense and the next step becomes inevitable. Napoleon Hill devoted more than 2 decades of his life to an almost obsessive mission understanding why some people prosper while others merely survive. He interviewed hundreds of millionaires, analyzed habits, decisions, routines, and above all, the way these people thought long before they became wealthy. What Hill discovered had little to do with money, luck, or external opportunities. The true difference was found in a wealth mindset, mental discipline, and the ability to program the mind for success. Prosperous people thought differently, reacted differently, and made decisions based on expectation rather than fear. Even more interesting is that these secrets were not exclusive to geniuses or the privileged. Hill made it clear that anyone willing to adjust the way they think, feel, and act could apply the same principles. And it's exactly this discovery that opens the door to the next point. Everything you experience today is a direct reflection of the beliefs you've accepted as truth throughout your life. The mind doesn't question, it executes. If you believe that prosperity is difficult, it will work tirelessly to prove that belief right. If you believe money flows easily, it begins searching for ways to confirm that idea. Napoleon Hill always emphasized that the power of the mind lies in what you repeat, feel, and feed daily. Dominant thoughts turn into invisible habits, and habits build visible results. It's not magic, it's mental programming operating all the time, whether you notice it or not. When you understand this, something shifts. You stop blaming the external world and start adjusting the internal one. And that simple shift prepares the ground for one of the most important moments of your day, the moment you wake up. The first minutes after waking are far more powerful than most people realize. In this moment, your mind is still transitioning between the subconscious and the conscious, extremely sensitive to suggestion. It's as if the brain's doors are wide open, ready to receive instructions that will set the tone for the entire day. The problem is that most people waste this moment grabbing their phone, reading negative news, or immediately thinking about problems. Prosperous people do the opposite. They use this short window to align thoughts, emotions, and expectations, creating a powerful morning that influences decisions, actions, and opportunities throughout the day. When you learn to respect this moment upon waking, things begin to change almost automatically. The mind becomes more focused, ideas flow more easily, and opportunities seem to appear more frequently. And this takes us directly to the next point: how to intentionally program the subconscious mind. The subconscious functions like a massive archive where everything is stored: beliefs, memories, emotions, and patterns repeated over time. It doesn't judge what's good or bad, it simply accepts what's repeated with emotion. That's why so many people live on autopilot, reproducing results without realizing where they come from. Once you understand this, you realize it's possible to consciously reprogram the subconscious. Small daily practices, especially upon waking, begin to replace old patterns with new dominant thoughts tied to prosperity, abundance, and confidence. It's like updating software that's been running on an outdated version. This process doesn't require extreme effort, but it does require consistency. Every intentionally chosen thought strengthens a new financial identity. And the simplest, most powerful tool to do this comes next: affirmations and autosuggestion. Affirmations are not empty phrases thrown into the air or meaningless positive thinking. They work when repeated with intention, emotion, and consistency, especially when the mind is most receptive. Napoleon Hill called this autosuggestion the conscious act of teaching the subconscious a new truth. When you declare phrases like "I am prosperous" or "money flows easily to me," you're not trying to convince the world, you are training your own mind. At first it may feel strange, but over time these words begin shaping thoughts, decisions, and behaviors naturally. The secret is feeling what you affirm. It's not repeating like a robot, it's living the emotion for a few moments. This combination of words, feeling, and repetition creates a solid foundation for something even more powerful that amplifies the effect: gratitude and the frequency of abundance. Gratitude is one of the fastest ways to shift your mental and emotional state. When you give thanks even before seeing results, your mind automatically leaves scarcity and enters the frequency of abundance. It's like changing radio stations: the signal shifts, and so does the experience. Napoleon Hill observed that truly prosperous people cultivated gratitude daily, not only for what they had, but for what they knew was on its way. This simple habit elevates financial awareness and prepares the ground for new opportunities to appear with much greater clarity. By practicing gratitude right after waking, you teach your subconscious that prosperity already exists in your life. This emotional state opens space for something inevitable: the understanding that thoughts are not harmless, they create realities. And that's exactly what we'll explore next. Nothing in your life happens by chance. Before any result appears in the physical world, it was repeatedly nurtured in the mind. Dominant thoughts, charged with emotion, eventually turn into decisions, actions, and over time, tangible reality. Napoleon Hill said that thoughts are things because they carry direction, energy, and creative power. When you maintain thoughts of scarcity, fear, or doubt, even unconsciously, you're giving clear instructions to the subconscious about the kind of reality to build. The good news is that this works both ways. By consciously choosing thoughts of prosperity, growth, and confidence, you begin changing the course of your financial life. And when this focus remains steady, something interesting happens. You start noticing opportunities that were always there. When your mind is aligned with prosperity, it filters reality differently. Mental focus activates internal mechanisms that help you recognize financial opportunities that once went unnoticed. Conversations, ideas, and everyday situations take on new meaning. This happens because the brain works as an intelligent filter. What you focus on expands. When your attention is stuck on scarcity, problems multiply. When focus shifts to growth and solutions, pathways begin to open almost naturally. Prosperous people don't have more opportunities than others, they're simply prepared to recognize them. And this perception reinforces something powerful: prosperity is not just a modern concept, it was taught long ago. Long before modern studies of the mind, the Bible already taught that the way we think shapes who we become. Proverbs 237 says that as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. This shows that prosperity begins from the inside out. The Word of God reinforces that faith, thought, and expectation walk together. When you align your mind with these truths, you're not going against spiritual principles, you're aligning with them. Biblical prosperity is not greed, it's living according to the purpose for which you were created. This understanding completely changes your relationship with money, work, and opportunities. And when you realize that prospering is part of the divine plan, it becomes much easier to accept abundance as something natural, not an exception. When you observe creation, it becomes clear that God does not operate in scarcity. Nature is abundant in everything: seeds, fruit, colors, possibilities. This reveals a divine pattern that has often been distorted in people's minds, making them believe that prosperity is wrong or reserved for a few. The truth is that abundance is part of God's plan for those who understand responsibility, purpose, and gratitude. Philippians 4:19 makes this clear when it says that God supplies all needs according to his riches, not according to human fear, but according to heavenly abundance. When this truth is accepted internally, something shifts in how you position yourself in life. The guilt around wanting to grow disappears, giving way to the awareness that prospering is also a way to honor what has been entrusted to you. And that's exactly what prepares the path for developing true wealth consciousness. Wealth consciousness isn't just about how much money comes in, but how you perceive value, opportunities, and decisions. Prosperous people think differently because they train their minds to recognize possibilities where others only see obstacles. When this awareness is activated, you begin noticing ideas, connections, and paths that once passed you by. It's as if your mind tunes into a new frequency, aligning dominant thoughts with growth, expansion, and wealth creation naturally. This internal shift directly affects daily choices. Small decisions start being made with a long-term vision, and money stops being a taboo and becomes a tool. And it's precisely at this point that a prosperity-focused morning ritual becomes essential to sustain this mindset every day. The first minutes of the day are like the rudder of a ship; they determine the direction of everything that follows. When you wake up on autopilot, the mind goes into reactive mode. But when you create a conscious ritual, you take control of your frequency and decisions. A prosperity morning ritual can be simple yet powerful. Starting the day with gratitude, an inspiring reading like Think and Grow Rich and positive declarations already programs the subconscious to perceive abundance early on. This daily habit strengthens mental discipline and creates emotional consistency. Over time, prospering stops feeling like effort and becomes a consequence. And when the mind is already prepared upon waking, creative visualization becomes even more effective. Creative visualization is a way to train the mind to recognize the life you want to live. When you imagine yourself reaching financial goals, making wise decisions, and living with freedom, the brain begins to treat those images as real experiences. This process activates mental focus and directs internal systems to seek opportunities aligned with what you visualize. It's not fantasy, it's mental conditioning. High achievers use this practice daily, often without realizing it. When visualization is paired with positive emotion, it becomes even more powerful. Feeling gratitude, joy, and confidence while visualizing creates a direct bridge to the subconscious. And it's exactly this emotion that transforms thought into manifestation. Thought alone is intention, but thought combined with emotion becomes command. Emotion is the fuel that brings mental images to life and makes the subconscious accept them as present truth. That's why thinking positive isn't enough; you have to feel as if it's already real. When you associate elevated feelings like gratitude, joy, and faith with your financial goals, you create a constant frequency of abundance. This changes your posture, your body language, and even how you respond to daily challenges. At this point, manifestation stops being distant and starts being built in the present. The right emotion aligns mind and action, preparing the ground for a more conscious and transformative inner dialogue, which we'll address next. What you say to yourself every day silently builds your financial destiny. Inner dialogue acts as a continuous programming of the subconscious, repeating beliefs that were often never consciously chosen. When this dialogue is adjusted intentionally, the mind begins working in your favor. Replacing phrases like "money is hard" with "money flows easily when I act wisely" may seem simple, but over time it creates profound impact. This reprogramming doesn't happen overnight, it happens through consistency. The more you observe yourself and choose better internal words, the stronger the new prosperous identity becomes. And when those words are spoken out loud, the effect multiplies. The words you declare are not neutral, they carry direction, intention, and power. From Genesis 13, where the word creates reality, we understand that what is spoken with faith has the power to shape circumstances. Speaking is planting. When you declare out loud affirmations like "I am prosperous," "God supplies all my needs," or "money flows easily in my life," your mind and spirit align. These declarations reinforce the new identity being built within you. Over time, spoken words become a conscious habit rather than an emotional impulse. And the more faith behind what's spoken, the stronger the effect becomes. This naturally leads us to understand how vibrational frequency separates scarcity from abundance. Everything you think, feel, and say emits a frequency. When the mind is trapped in fear, comparison, and complaint, the vibration is scarcity. When gratitude, positive expectation, and faith are present, the frequency automatically shifts to abundance. Prosperous people don't ignore problems, they choose not to live inside them. They train their minds to remain in a higher vibration even in the face of challenges. This creates emotional clarity and opens space for solutions and financial opportunities. Changing frequency doesn't require perfection, it requires awareness. Every daily choice, from what you consume to who you surround yourself with, influences this internal state. And when frequency adjusts, faith stops being just a concept and becomes the master key. Faith is not passive waiting, it's acting with conviction before seeing results. Hebrews 111 defines faith as the certainty of what is hoped for, and that certainty completely changes how you move through financial life. When faith is active, decisions stop being guided by fear and start being guided by purpose. You allow yourself to try, learn, and grow, knowing that each step aligns with something greater than temporary circumstances. This unshakable faith connects mind, emotion, and action. It sustains discipline, strengthens perseverance, and keeps focus even when results haven't appeared yet. And that's exactly what prepares you to act in alignment with the prosperity you want to live. Thinking right and feeling right without acting leads to frustration. Prosperity manifests when action follows mindset. Small daily actions, done consistently, build extraordinary results over time. Acting with prosperity means managing what you already have better, seeking knowledge, taking responsibility, and seizing opportunities when they arise. It's not about doing everything at once, but about taking the next step with awareness and intention. When action and thought walk together, progress becomes inevitable. Every choice reinforces the new prosperous identity being formed. And from there, it becomes natural to set clear financial goals that give direction and meaning to daily effort. Without clear goals, the mind operates in survival mode, not prosperity mode. When you define specific financial objectives, mental focus automatically adjusts to seek paths that lead there. Goals don't need to be complicated, but they do need to be conscious. Knowing how much you want to earn, why you want it, and what you'll do with it creates real motivation and strengthens daily action. As these goals become clearer, simple decisions start making more sense. Spending, investing, and career choices are filtered through a higher objective. And when clarity exists, a powerful principle enters the picture to sustain growth, giving and receiving. Prosperity flows best when there's balance between what comes in and what goes out. The law of reciprocity teaches that giving is not losing, it's creating space to receive more. Luke 638 makes it clear that what you give returns, often multiplied. Giving can take many forms: time, knowledge, help, financial generosity, or even the right word at the right moment. When done with the right intention, without guilt or fear, the mind aligns with abundance. This practice breaks the cycle of scarcity and strengthens trust in the flow of life. You stop holding on out of fear and start trusting with wisdom. And that posture directly influences your environment and the people you connect with. The environment you live in and the people you surround yourself with shape your thoughts more than you realize. Napoleon Hill taught that the mastermind forms when you connect with people who think growth, solutions, and prosperity. When you change your environment, you change the stimuli entering your mind daily. Conversations, content, habits, and references begin raising the standard of your dominant thoughts, strengthening mental discipline almost effortlessly. This doesn't mean abandoning people, but consciously choosing what you consume and who you build ideas with. An environment aligned with prosperity strengthens decisions and prepares you to see adversity not as a threat, but as a disguised opportunity. Every adversity carries a seed of growth, even when it's not visible at first. Napoleon Hill emphasized that the greatest financial and personal breakthroughs often arise from difficult seasons, when the mind is forced out of familiar patterns. Instead of asking, "Why did this happen to me?" the question shifts to, "What is this trying to teach me?" This change in perspective turns problems into mental training and strengthens personal responsibility rather than victimhood. When you learn to see challenges as part of the process, fear loses its grip. Adversity stops being a break and becomes a silent push toward your purpose, talents, and the prosperous identity being built. Sustainable prosperity is born when you align who you are with what you do. Your talents weren't given by accident, they're part of your purpose and direct tools for creating value and wealth naturally. When you recognize your identity and take responsibility for it, decisions become clearer. You stop copying paths that don't fit you and start developing what truly makes sense for your life. This alignment strengthens confidence and eliminates wasted energy. Work stops being just obligation and becomes expression. And when identity and purpose meet, an intense desire emerges that drives firm and transformative decisions. Nothing great happens without a burning desire behind it. Napoleon Hill taught that intense desire is the starting point of every significant achievement. It's not a passing wish, it's an internal decision that doesn't depend on external circumstances. When you truly decide, the mind stops searching for excuses and starts searching for paths. Burning desire generates focus, persistence, and courage to act even without guarantees. This decision shifts your daily posture. You begin protecting your energy, your time, and your choices. And to sustain this level of commitment, one indispensable element comes into play: daily mental discipline. Mental discipline isn't rigidity, it's consistency. It's choosing, every day, thoughts that strengthen rather than weaken. Even when fatigue appears, a trained mind knows how to return to focus. This discipline is built through simple practices: daily reading, monitoring inner dialogue, moments of silence, and goal review. Small habits done daily create a solid foundation for smarter, more balanced decisions. Over time, this discipline becomes automatic. The mind stops reacting and starts leading. And when that happens, applying learned principles stops being theory and becomes conscious, continuous practice. Knowledge that isn't applied becomes mere information. True transformation happens when you choose to live the principles in everyday life, even in small decisions no one sees. Applying these teachings means observing habits, adjusting routines, and acting in alignment with the mindset you're building. It may involve organizing finances better, studying new paths, or changing how you respond to challenges. Daily practice consolidates internal change. Every action reinforces new mental programming and strengthens trust in the process. And to accelerate this movement even further, a simple, structured challenge can make all the difference. Deep change happens through consistency. The 30-day challenge works as a mental and spiritual training, creating a new pattern of thoughts, emotions, and actions connected to prosperity. During this period, the focus is simple daily affirmations, conscious reading, gratitude upon waking, and decisions aligned with abundance. It's not about perfection, it's about commitment to the process. By the end of the 30 days, something shifts internally. The mind begins operating at a new level of expectation and clarity. And when this new frequency is established, the end of this cycle becomes the perfect invitation for lasting transformation. Now that you understand how mind, faith, and action walk together, the question is no longer does this work, but what are you going to do with all of this? Transformation begins the moment you decide to apply it, even if it's just one small step today. Nothing changes if everything stays the same. Prosperity isn't a distant promise, it's a daily construction built on conscious choices, discipline, and trust. You now have the knowledge, the responsibility for your financial destiny is in your hands. This is the invitation. Choose a new way of thinking, feeling, and acting starting now. Allow yourself to live abundance as part of your purpose. Change begins within, but it reveals itself in the world when you decide to move. Now that you've made it this far, pause for a moment and reflect. What thoughts have you been feeding every day? Are they bringing you closer to or farther from the prosperous life you say you desire? Prosperity doesn't start in the wallet, it starts in the mind and is confirmed by the choices you make when no one is watching. You've just realized that faith, mental discipline, and aligned action are not isolated concepts, but a continuous path. The question isn't whether you can prosper, it's whether you're willing to assume this new identity, reprogram your mind, and act consistently, even when results aren't yet visible. So the decision is yours. Start today. Apply one principle, make one different choice, declare out loud what you want to live. And if this message spoke to you, subscribe to the channel, activate notifications, and walk with us daily on this journey of spiritual, mental, and financial transformation.